So as our band is getting settled into their chairs, let's take a few deep breaths and let those words take us into the core of our being. What we send out into the world returns to us. This is an ancient teaching that preceded Jesus. Thousands and thousands of years we've heard this idea from many places, many spiritual paths. That what we think out into the world is helping to create our world. What we speak into the world is helping to create our environment, our experiences. What we send out returns to us. And so this morning we want to be diligent, set intention that we send out blessings of peace, of kindness, of compassion. Even if we are not certain about next right and perfect steps, that we send out the faithful, faithful idea that all can be well and that all is well. Good people working for kind solutions to very, very, very difficult issues. We bless our human family everywhere. All those gathering around the planet in their places of prayer, their places of healing. As we take a deep breath, I invite us to listen to the words of Rabia, who was an Islamic saint, a Sufi saint. She lived 500 years before Rumi. Rumi received some of his ideas from her. In my soul there is a temple. In my soul there is a shrine. In my soul there is a mosque. In my soul there is a church where I kneel. Prayer can bring us to an altar of our hearts where no walls or names exist. In my soul, there is an altar, a temple, a shrine, a mosque, a church. And all misunderstandings dissolve in the love of my heart. Let's take a deep breath into that idea that beyond our beliefs, beyond our religious teachings, beyond ideas of right or wrong, there's the power of our own hearts, where misunderstandings dissolve, prejudices dissolve, fear dissolves. We take a deep breath into the altar of our own hearts, and for a moment we hold our world in a prayer of kindness and compassion. Beyond all appearances, beyond all frightening interpretations and stories of world circumstances, we breathe into our hearts, the altar of our hearts, where we know all is well, all is well, all is well. And we pray in the name and in the light of the living presence of peace within each one of us, and we say, so it is, and so we let it be. Namaste. So this morning we're talking about deep roots within. And the message is coming from the power of now, which we're going to say, let there be light. And here it comes. The sun is rising. Yay! So from the power of now, how many of us come to the Wednesday book group? There are a lot of Wednesday book group people in here. It's a book group plus. Happens Wednesdays, 12:30 to 1:30, and the book right now is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. So he says to stay present in everyday life, it helps to be deeply rooted within yourself. Otherwise, the mind, which has incredible momentum, will drag you along like a wild river. Anyone have experience with that? You're at the altar of your heart, you're having an epiphany, a wonderful experience with the divine presence, and somewhere in your mind, Aunt Bertha begins to speak. Or Uncle Joe. What are you doing believing in the power of prayer? You know that it's never going to do any good. Aunt Bertha, it's okay to say, please shut up. And we do our spiritual practice to lift ourselves up out of the scary, confusing voices. Because beneath that and all around that, we're rooted to something so big and so spectacular that it doesn't have anything to do with fear or confusion or upsetness. And that's the part that I want to speak from today, and that's the part of you I want to speak to. Is that okay? Okay. And anything else, just tell them, go take a nap. We'll catch up with you later. They'll always be back around later. So deeply rooted to what? What are we rooted to or rooted with? What is to our source? To our source. So most of us by this time, we know when our decisions are coming out of source consciousness and when it's coming out of egoic, adverse ego consciousness, right? We pretty much know. I mean, we know ourselves, like every great teacher said, know thyself and you will know God. Know thyself and you will know source. So I know pretty well when I'm operating out of my adverse ego. And you pretty much know it too when I'm operating out of adverse ego. And you know when I'm operating out of source consciousness. And you know when you are too. So if you found, we've talked about this the last 2 Sundays. I'm probably going to use this slide from now on. Because it's so true. I've done it. You've done it. If you found yourself in paradise, it wouldn't be long before your mind would say, yeah, but I know it's beautiful, magnificent, love is all around, but you know what?
Might get another hurricane.
You might get another hurricane. So what we've been talking about in this book and forever and ever and all these Sunday services is what if we decided to be more present, more conscious, so that we not only didn't create any more pain for ourselves, but we didn't create any more pain for the collective. What if we made that decision? Now, how do we create pain for ourselves? We tell scary stories. We love scary stories. We were raised on Vincent Price, Boris Karloff, some of the others. We love a good story. And that's what we're doing right now. We've always done it because that's what human beings do. We make up our stories, and sometimes they're so frightening and so scary that we don't live out of the source, present moment consciousness. We're already into the future of how frightening it's going to be, and that's where we're living out of. And if you don't do that, you know somebody who does. So from Holy Spirit, the message is, don't do that. Live out of source energy. We create pain, Tolle says, with the insanity of psychological time. We're going to think about that. He says it's an insane idea that the highest good lies in the future and therefore the end justifies the means. Let's all take a deep breath. This has been going on our planet since the beginning. It's been going on in this country since the inception of 1940. No, way back farther than that. 1492. Yeah, 1942, yeah, but 1492. So here's what Tolle says. You will not have any doubt that psychological time is a mental disease if you look at its collective manifestations. They occur, for example, in the form of ideologies, such as communism, National Socialism, or any nationalism, or rigid religious belief systems. How many of us came out of rigid religious belief systems? These systems operate under the implicit assumption that the highest good lies in the future and that therefore the end justifies the means. The end is an idea, a point in the mind projected future, when salvation in whatever form, happiness, fulfillment, equality, liberation, and so on will be attained. Not infrequently, let's take a deep breath. Not infrequently, the means of getting to our point of salvation requires the enslavement, torture, and murder of people in the present. Let's take a deep breath. Sometimes people like Tolle, the songwriters, the poets, the authors, the playwrights, they're reminding us constantly that we human beings make it okay to hurt each other if we see our means as the best, right, and perfect outcome.
Amen. Amen.
So we have some soul searching to do. I heard on NPR this morning a man from Honduras praying for President Trump. Now, I don't know what the right and perfect answer is or the next right and perfect step, but I know people are suffering. And so we're all called to do our inner work so that the kindest decisions can be made. But sometimes we talk ourselves into letting groups be okay with hurting others because we have some future goal in mind. We humans do that. There's a group of people who've been working on our townhouse since the hurricane repairs needed to be done. And one of them is a young man who's Apache. And he was telling me that his mother got him and his siblings off of the reservation when he was 6 years old because she knew they would die there if they stayed. They were moved onto a piece of land that is so without the ability to grow food or to manage life in a good way. They were moved onto that land because the means of this government wanting to take away their other land and put them on land that was not as good, that they made it okay to do that. So we human beings keep reassessing what we've done and how we want to go forward because we can't keep repeating the same unkind patterns. That's just one example. So underneath our outer form, we are connected with something so vast, so immeasurable, so sacred. And that's really what I have to practice staying rooted in. Otherwise, I taught myself into believing that I am less than wonderful, less than the light, as the song says, less than beautiful. And if I'm not doing a good enough job with telling myself I'm less than, there will be other voices to tell me that. So I have to be rooted in the voice and the source energy that says, you're the light of the world, you are brilliant and magnificent, and you're here for holy purpose, and your life has meaning. Otherwise, I'm rooted in something that throws me off so quickly that I lose my center. I know y'all never do that. Let's read this together and change it. to my and I am, like this. Underneath my outer form, I am connected with something so vast, so immeasurable and sacred. Let's do that again. Underneath my outer form, I am connected with something so vast, so immeasurable and sacred. Does that feel true? It is true. Linda said it. It is so. We go to Walmart parking lot, and we forget this. Next time I'm in the Walmart parking lot, I'm going to wear this on my T-shirt. Underneath my outer form, I am connected with something so vast, so immeasurable, so sacred. I won't be thrown by anything. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And what we forget is the scripture always says, yea, though I walk through. You know, my head is anointed with oil. My consciousness is anointed, lifted up. My cup runneth over. The blessings abound in the valley of the shadow. We were given everything we need to walk through. You know, we're walking through the valley of the shadow. And someone pauses to stop with you there and talk and says, isn't it bad? Isn't it awful? Isn't it horrible? And you say, I'm walking through. I'm anointed. I'm anointed. My consciousness, my cup runneth over, and I'm drinking from the saucer. The blessings abound. I'll see you later. I'm walking through. Right? There will always be people who want to stay there with you and talk with you about how bad it is. The valley of the shadow is rich, rich, rich with hidden treasure. We will try to race through it. We forget that there's a lot of treasure in that place.
Margaret, I said when you're walking through hell, don't slow down and don't take pictures.
Okay, Reverend Gervais, retired Unity minister, says, when you're walking through hell, don't slow down and don't take pictures. Okay, got it. So we are surrounded by something so vast, so immeasurable, so sacred, and it touches the big things of our lives, and it touches the tiny things of our lives. And if we're not paying attention, we miss a whole lot of little things because we're looking for the really big stuff. But I tell you, we're surrounded all the time by the little miraculous moments. So, I have a story about the bolt. Years ago, on my workshop journeys, I was RVing, like a lot of you are now. You love your RVs. They're so much fun. So we're traveling down the road near Apalachicola in Florida. On our way to Caravel, if you know, or Caravel, if y'all know that, best oysters in the world, right? So, traveling down the road, and I see on the side of the road an old man, dirty, disheveled, looks like he's probably been living on the street for a long time. And he was probably the age that I am now, but back then, he looked really old. And I heard my granddad's voice, which was unusual, because he had given me a lecture years before, don't ever pick up strangers. Don't do it. So I heard my granddad's voice say, pick this man up. What? Pick this man up. So I turned to my companion, I said, stop the RV, pick this man up. My companion said, no, we're not going to pick up a stranger. I said, yes, stop the RV. He's an old man, what can it hurt? He got in, the old man got in. He smelled. Oh, Lord Jesus, he smelled. He was dirty. I don't think he brushed his teeth in a while. I made him a sandwich, gave him a glass of iced tea. We traveled up the road. We talked about scriptures. He knew his Bible really well. We had a good visit. And it came time to let him out in Caravel, and as he was getting out, he turned to me and he said, you might need this. And he handed me a bolt. And I said, okay. And we let him out. We gave him an extra sandwich. He went on his way. We went on our way. And about 30 minutes later up the highway, I turned around like I often did just to make sure our little Subaru was tracking behind the RV, and it was coming down the road sideways behind our RV. One of our bolts had come undone. Back in that old system, there were 2 bolts. One of them had come undone. Not the kind of bolt he gave us was not the kind of bolt we ordinarily used. But because we had that bolt, we were able to get the Subaru back onto the RV hookup and continue up the highway with no problems. There is something immeasurable and vast and sacred around us all the time. Now, my first thought was, when he got on the RV, he saw the bolt on the ground and it wasn't the kind of bolt that we used. Now, when's the last time somebody tried to hand you a bolt and you said, I'm not going to need a bolt? Often, the immeasurable, vast, sacred energy is providing us with the little things before we even know we need them. And because we're rooted in that source consciousness, we're able to say, yes, pick him up. That's not a normal thing we would do, but something else is at work here. Pick that fellow up. And he ends up handing us the thing we're going to need. Now, he handed us something much bigger. The awareness that we were willing to step out of our comfort zone because the guidance of source energy was, do that. And if we're going to pay attention to this vast, immeasurable source energy, I promise you, these little things are happening all the time. People walk in with peace poles. Yes, we want a peace pole. Yes, we want a plumber out at the property. Yes, we want your experience. Yes, we want your energy. Yes, we want your creative ideas, because we are in a receiving mood. We're operating with source energy. It's exciting, y'all. So we are connected with something so vast, so immeasurable and sacred. So let's take a deep breath. It took us a long time, a lot of energy, a lot of teams working together, a lot of people looking at property. We have done a lot to get to this moment. And we could look at it as, well, we got a bigger piece of property and we're going to have a bigger sanctuary, we're going to do something different, and isn't that nice? That's one level. Another level is we're going to have property, the children can run outside, we can all run outside, we can all be outside. We're going to have windows. When will she stop talking about the window? I can't say, that's my window. We're going to have natural light. It's all so exciting. And I just want to take a deep breath into the vast, immeasurable, sacred. What we're doing there is something bigger than what we know yet. It's more vast and immeasurable than we've allowed ourselves to see and feel yet. And I'm not just wishfully thinking or dreaming. I know this in the core of my being, that we're on to something. And we're ready for this vast, immeasurable, sacred to make itself known and manifest in the little and the big ways. Isn't that fabulous? We're ready. Just like Christopher Wren, he asked those workers, what are you doing? And one guy said, well, I'm making a living. I'm making these bricks, I'm making a living. And the next guy, Christopher Wren, said, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm taking these bricks and I'm making a wall. But the third guy, the third one was operating out of vast, immeasurable, sacred consciousness. Christopher Wren said, what are you doing? And the man said, I'm building a cathedral. And they were all doing the same thing. Making bricks, building walls. He caught the vision. One of the workers out at the property, he said to me the other day, this was the Apache fellows, he said, so when you get your cathedral built here, I said, well, we're not exactly a cathedral group, but It's that kind of inspired energy that he can feel.
The land is the cathedral.
The land is the cathedral, you're right.
The Spirit has
Yeah,
come forth to
right.
welcome us.
There you go. So here's a living mandala that Lester guided us in on our last prayer chaplain training out at the property. It's just a little simple thing, but it was paying honor to the gifts of the land. All these little things came from the land. And just touching into that energy of how will this land feed us and renew us and inspire us and lift us up. When we get out there and we're feeling a little tired painting or pouring concrete or fixing toilets, which, by the way, did I say we needed a plumber out there on the property?
We do need a
Yeah, we do need a plumber. So all of the ways that we've been out there doing what we can with what we have and with the time that we have, we are watching an energy grow, and we're feeling ourselves be accelerated and enthusiastic and what's the word? Somebody used it last week. I feel energized was the word. So get involved. Ask what is mine to do in this place at this time. So let's take a deep breath. Somebody today might hand you a bolt. It might be a bolt of energy, healing energy. It might be a bolt, a literal bolt. You might need this. Somebody might thrust a check in your hand and say, I want to be a part of doing this project, of building this center. Somebody might climb up and say, you know, I have this wonderful sound system to donate. Receive the bolt. Even if we don't know how we're going to use these things, let ourselves be so plugged into source energy that we know when it's good to say yes, when it's good to say no, but we know when it's good to receive even before we know how we're going to use the blessing. Don't shut source energy down. Let source energy move, because we are building the energy and the atmosphere of a cathedral. That's what we're up to. We give thanks that we are rooted in this source energy, being healed and renewed and transformed on every level, and all those souls with whom we're connected, healed and renewed and regenerated. We give thanks for all the ways our blessings are coming. Our blessings are already here. We give thanks in the name and in the light of the living presence of peace, of love, of kindness, of compassion. This is what we're made of, and we give thanks. So it is, and so we let it be. Namaste.
Oh, thank you, Margaret, so much for that. That was just beautiful.